Hello, all you hardcores out there. How are you doing? Russ here from Porky's Corner, the biggest gob in sport. You know the rest, don't you? You know why you've tuned in as well. Following on from my video I did with Aaron, I said I would do a top 10 Ingle gym fighters. In my opinion, two, four, six, eight, 10 of them. I mean, obviously they've had more fighters than that over the years, but for me, these 10 are the top kids to come from that gym. 2 seconds. Go on, scoot! Like Pet's Corner in here today. Uh, so here we go. I mean, I'll start out at 10 and I'll tell you why I think these are great fighters. Obviously, Brian Anderson, we've got him in at 10. I wasn't going to put him in because when I were in Donkey Charge years ago, he was governor and he authorised Naseem Hamid when he got sentenced to stay in the reception all night and he didn't have to go on the wing. And I thought that Brian Anderson, in my opinion, let himself down there, right? Let himself down as a governor or former governor who obviously started in probation service, didn't he? But the guy's got a criminal record for a street robbery. He ended up in probation office and then prison governor, and he gave me. I ended up on basic regime 90 days because of him. But anyway, that's by the by. I thought he was a good fighter, and he won hardware. But uh, that with Naz leaves a bad taste in my mouth because if Naseem Hamid's sentenced to what he got sentenced, why can't he go on wing like everybody else and then the next morning go to a category D prison? Why? Why couldn't why? So he lets himself down with that, Brian Anderson. But like I said, back in the day, he's a good fighter, so it is what it is. So Brian Anderson at number 10. I think he won a British title as well. Number 9, Jonathan Thaxton. I thought he was a great fighter, and he gave Ricky Hatton all he could when Ricky Hatton were red hot. A tough kid, hard trainer, and I thought they did well with him up there. So Jonathan Thaxton, number 9 for me. People are going to not like this one. Pelly Reid, the electrician. I think he come from a K1 background, where it kickboxing or something, but I thought he was very good. Very, very good. So I've got Pelly Reid in at number 8. I wonder whatever happened to him. I thought he was a great fighter. And he was hyped up like you could never, ever imagine. A bit like they did with Richard Towers. The Brendan hyped him up, didn't he? Until he ran into Lucas Big Daddy Brown. So, but Pelly Reid, I thought he were doing really well at one point. Number 7, Clifton Mitchell. I used to go watch Clifton Mitchell fight. He were putting guys on Jupiter, planet Jupiter, a long time before John Fury were in his 100-0 on the hard road run that he went through. And 100 of them on planet Jupiter. Well, Clifton Mitchell were putting them on planet Jupiter before Big John Fury. Also, Clifton Mitchell were actually not only knocking guys out, they were carrying them out on stretchers. Smelling salts job in the dressing room. Ask anybody. You know what I mean? Ask anybody. But that's a true story. So Clifton Mitchell in at number 7 as one of the top guys from the Ingle gym over the years, over this last 50 year or so, or 49 years, is it, whatever. In at number 6, this is where everybody can argue. Everybody can argue, because we're getting into the cream, aren't we now? In at number 6. His style wasn't for me, but it was effective. Right? And he went on to be a WBC champion. And he should have had the Ricky Hatton fight, but his style were all wrong for Ricky Hatton. And Ricky Hatton, I think, knew that. Junior Witter. When he was with Mick Hennessy, he were red hot. I went to see him fight at Donny Dome. I think that was a world title fight. Junior Witter for me is number 6. Maybe a lack of ticket selling and his style, why he never really captured the public's imagination like he did, because he had the WBC belt and obviously he won other hardware, didn't he? So Junior Witter at number 6 for me. In at number 5, it's Johnny Horsecock Nelson. Where Johnny lets himself down, in my opinion, is this. When he were at Sky all them donkeys years, he'd like try and play the good cop, bad cop with Super Bean. You know, coming out with things like, oh, I've just seen Eric Molina on the pads and he's really up for this fight with Anthony Joshua, and Charlie Martin's a banger and Joshua's up against the southpaw, and Tackham is like George Foreman and Holyfield rolled into one. All donkey fodder for Anthony Joshua, wasn't it? They had to play devil's advocate. They had to give two sides of the coin. Johnny, in his heart of hearts, never believed all that. And that's why maybe his YouTube channel's a bit more refreshing now, isn't it? But that's his opinion, isn't it? Whereas when he were at Sky Sports, he had to toe the line. And that, for me, lets him down. But we can't knock his career. He had a bad start to his career and he ended up a world champion, you know, for 7 years. And you can't knock that. We cannot knock that. All these fights that he won in that reign, about 14 defences or something. I think he's got the record, hasn't he? All them fights he had were all won properly. He had an effective style, weren't very exciting. We all remember the Carlos de Leon fight. They had I mean, people used to say, didn't they? What's Johnny Nelson and Peter Sutcliffe got in common? They were both smuggled out of sight. They were both smuggled out of Sheffield under a blanket. Peter Sutcliffe were, wasn't he? To face questions over in West Yorkshire, and Johnny Horsecock were that night against Carlos de Leon, wasn't he? But I felt for him that night. But let's have it right. He had a 7-year run as a world champion and all them defences. So, and his style were effective, just I suppose like Andre Ward's. You know, a bit negative and blah blah blah. But it worked for Johnny, didn't it? So, Johnny's in at number 5. Now this is where it gets a bit funny now. In at number 4, this is, well, not funny, but people can argue toss over this. In at number 4, I'm going to go Naseem Abid at number 4. People are going to go, oh, Porky, you've lost your mind. No, I haven't. Yeah, he was exciting, wasn't he? And he sold the fights, but I always felt that every fight that he were in, Bricktop, got him at the right time, like Kevin Kelly. That were a life and death, but Kevin Kelly had about 50 fights at the time. Do you know what I mean? He were an old man at that weight, a very old man. And that were life and death. And I think the chinks started to appear in his arsenal then. For me, he never did everything right. He did everything wrong. A bit like people go on about me, because I like snooker, don't I? And pool. And people always say to me, Alex Higgins did everything wrong. He moved on the shot and blah, blah, blah. But when he struck the ball, everything must have been right for him, because he wouldn't have achieved what he did. And I suppose you could say that with Nas, really, couldn't you? But for me, I don't think he was best technician from there, or the main guy from there. I know he's the guy that's earned all the money from that gym, but for me, no. So Naseem Hamed, number 4, Fat Naz. In at number 3, Barry Awad. I think this kid here, technique-wise, had it all. But like I said, he never really. He sort of like negated people, didn't he, in the ring, and took all the attributes off him and the things that they were good at his opponents. And if you're a purist, a great fighter to watch. So we're talking best fighter and technical ability. Technical ability, yes, but at that weight that he fights at, you don't tend to have longevity. But I think what they did with him were great. Brendan and obviously Flex. So, and he's an hard trainer. I think it just shows you if you train and live the life, you can achieve greatness. And I think it's a shame that he didn't go on to bigger and better things. He just never seemed to get the fights. Whether it was his style or a ticket problem, I don't know. So Barry Awad, aka Kid Galahad, number three. Number two, Ryan Rhodes, the Spice Boy. For me, very tight between him and the guy at number one. But Ryan Rhodes, obviously never won a world title, but when he were fighting at 154, I think he was youngest British champion at 20 in a few days, were it? And then obviously he won the British outright. In under 90, or it bang on 90 days, which is unheard of. I mean, that's how you put respect on the British title. So I always tip my hat to Ryan Rhodes for that. But when you're fighting Otis Grant at 160, who's technically a light heavyweight boiled down, and you're going up from 154, bad matchmaking. Whoever talked Ryan Rhodes into taking that fight should be embarrassed. Should be embarrassed. It's a bit like putting other fighters who are welterweights in with killer middleweights. I'll come to that in a minute. But bad matchmaking that. And after that, I don't think he would have it the same again. But we have to give credit to Bombay Dave for getting him in shape at 154 for one last hurrah. And Jamie Moore at the time was red hot, and he absolutely flogged Jamie Moore, didn't he? Ryan Rose. So you got to give him his respect, and he got jumped in there with Canelo. So well done. But I always feel if he'd have stayed at 154, I don't know if it were laziness on Ryan's part or they were chasing money. I don't know. Why would you want to go up to 160? I don't know. Obviously, there's the Jason Matthews fight at 160. He nearly pulled that off, didn't he? But a 154 guy should have stayed at that, and he could have dominated. So at 154, I believe. Terry don't agree with me on that, Terry Choppenheimer, but in my opinion, yeah, I think that he was exciting and he had it all. He could fight every style. So Ryan at number two. Number one. Now this kid here, right, is called the special one for one reason only. He does everything by the book. How the teacher, how a trainer teaches a fighter to fight, to do everything perfectly, right, is Kell Brook. Absolute perfect fighting machine. But they made one mistake with him, didn't they? They put him in with Golovkin, a killer at 160, and Kell were a welterweight. Not going like 154 to 160 like Ryan did, which were unheard of at the time, and especially going in against Otis Grant, who's walking around at like 200 pound in between fights. To put Kell Brook, a 147 guy, in with a killer, and I mean a killer who's got the world record defences for a middleweight, share with Hopkins. Is it about 20 defences? But his were nearly all knockouts. Hopkins had about 9 knockouts out. Didn't he? I think his were it 19, 18, 19 or something. It might have even been 20. I think it was about 18 or 19. Kent will probably check that out and correct me. But they put Kell Brook in with a killer middleweight because Eubank pulled out that fight, and Eddie didn't want to lose his deposit on the arena. But they sold it as, don't worry, Kell. If you're losing, Dominic will throw toweling, and you've always got your belt at 147. And we've got another killer with an even better KO ratio than Golovkin waiting for you when we boil you back down to 147. So who were advising Kell Brook about all that? I don't know. I don't care now, but at the time I fucking did care. He was one of my favourite fighters, Kell Brook. So, but in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions in the industry, he is the best technician, the best fighting man to come out of that gym, who does everything correctly. And I don't want to see him in ring in February because he's 4 years out the ring, and I don't want to see him in the summer in with Crusher Ben. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see fighters dug up who've been out the ring 4 years. I don't want to see that, but we're going to see it, but I don't want to see it. You'll see Kell fight in Dubai, and then in February, and then you'll see him fight Eubank or Ben 3 times a piece. Trust me. That's all we're going to get now, recycled rematches. But getting back to what this video is about, my top 10 from that gym. Brian Anderson 10, Jonathan Thaxton 9, Pelly Reid 8, Clifton Mitchell 7, massive puncher Clifton Mitchell, absolutely flattening people, how heavyweights should fight. Junior Witter 6, Johnny Horsecock 5, Fat Naz 4, Kid Galahad 3, Spice Boy Ryan Rhodes 2, Kelbrook number 1 by a mile. There you go. Pop, pop, bang. Thanks for liking and subscribing and leaving a comment. Max, you're a waste man. Don't text me until you're a middleweight. Booyaka.